We're going to talk about how to use the iPad to conduct a flight briefing, which includes getting a weather briefing. And there are always a lot of questions about what constitutes a legal aviation weather briefing. For Part 91 operations, the primary regulation is 91.103, which states that a pilot must become familiar with all available information, including weather reports and forecasts. But if you ask around, you'll find confusion or disagreement over what the FAA considers valid weather reports and forecasts. If you're a commercial operator, well, then the answer is easy. It's spelled out for you in your op specs. But if you're flying under Part 91, then it's not so easy. There's no specific guidance. We believe that to be legal, you need to be able to prove after the fact that you have received the appropriate weather reports and forecasts. And the best way to do that is to get your briefings the way the pros do. If we look at what aviation inspectors require in op specs for commercial operations, the requirements break down into the following three buckets. The first bucket being, the weather has to come from an approved source. These are described in AC 00-45, Aviation Weather Services, and basically include weather reports from the National Weather Service and the FAA. There are some commercial weather providers who have been approved to source their own raw weather data, but most of the other commercial weather providers simply repackage National Weather Service and FAA weather data. Second, the weather information has to be delivered reliably, and that means there are no undue delays in the updating of the weather information, and it can't be tampered with along the way. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, your receipt of the weather information needs to be logged somewhere. This is crucial if you want to come back later and prove you indeed got a weather briefing. Most of the aviation weather applications on the iPad do not meet these requirements. The bottom line when using your iPad to get a legal briefing, you need to make sure you use one of the following: flight service, DUATS, a QICP. The QICP program was set up by the FAA to give aviation weather vendors the ability to provide meteorological data via the public internet. QICPs have the ability to prove to the FAA that the pilots did indeed obtain weather information pertaining to their flights. And again, most weather apps on the iPad are not QICP. And while the information is useful, it does not constitute a legal briefing. A lot of pilots use online weather sites to get their aviation weather, and you can access these from the iPad. But I do have an advisory for you. Some of those sites keep their QICP weather on separate pages you have to navigate to manually. For example, here on flightplan.com, there's a special link to the QICP weather page. When you bring it up, you can see it provides a completely different weather product than normal. So pro tip number 3 is access DUATS to make your briefing legal. You can set up your DUATS account in most of the iPad flight planning apps. For Garmin Pilot, we do the following setup. If we go into settings, we tap on pilot info, we tap the plus symbol to add pilot information. I'll feed in my name, good old Jeffrey Robert Moss. I'll feed in my address, city, state, zip code, and phone. And then you can see here when we get to the bottom, the Garmin app actually provides you access to both vendors, DTC, which is DUAT.com, or CSC, which is DUATS with an S.com. And then at the bottom here, once we fed in, we can choose our preferred service. I personally like to use CSC, which is DUATS. Now, when we change and go to ForeFlight, ForeFlight only gives you access to CSC for the weather information, which is DUATS. So we'll tap on the More button in the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to tap on Accounts. You can see down here at the bottom it says CSC DUATS. So here I'll enter in my access code, and then I'll feed in my password. Once I've done that, I go into the upper right-hand corner. I'll tap on the Done button. And ForeFlight has saved my DUATS info. Now, to give you an example, I'm going to tap on the Maps button down here at the bottom. And then you can see here, I'll bring down the navlog. And once I have a navlog, if I tap on Send To, I choose the option for File and Brief. And the nice thing here is, to file my flight plan, I can tap the green button in the lower right-hand corner. It gives me this, so you sure you want to file this flight plan 13 minutes from now? I tell it yes. Notice the File button has now disappeared. I can then tap the Brief button. Here's Brief. It's now logging into DUATS, and it's retrieving a standard weather briefing. Once the briefing has been retrieved, I can simply just tap on the information that I want. Departure closest terminal weather. I can get the terminal weather. I can get the area forecast, just like you would on any other application. The secret here is, at least here, it's actually a legal weather briefing. Now, I do have a caution for you. It is possible for downloaded weather to remain on your app and then go stale. Anytime you view a weather image, the first thing that you should do is check the issue time. Here in ForeFlight, the issue time is located in the upper left-hand corner. As you can see on this chart, it was issued at 0005 Zulu, which is 5:05 p.m. local, so the chart was issued 4 minutes ago. Now watch how this very same image becomes stale. Here's a screenshot at 6:30 p.m., and ForeFlight is still showing us the same weather data that was issued at 5:05 p.m. because we're in airplane mode. So this data is now an hour and 25 minutes old. And to make matters worse, we need to be extra careful with NextRad data because some of the raw radar data can be up to 15 to 20 minutes old when the Mosaic chart is issued. In fact, the NTSB just published a safety alert to pilots to be very careful to keep this time delay in mind when using NextRad data on the flight deck. As you can see, you have a wealth of weather information on the iPad, but you need to take a few extra steps to make sure that your flight briefing is complete and it's going to protect you legally.